I'm Kathy Bichsel, and welcome to today's broadcast of It's a Beautiful Life. On today's broadcast, I am so happy to have with us Dr. Angel DaSilva. Dr. Angel DaSilva is a life coach, counselor, educator, speaker, just a wonderful young woman of God filled with wisdom and anointing and power to help you excel and prosper in your relationships. So Angel, I want to welcome you to the broadcast today.
Thank you so much. What an introduction. Thank you.
Well, what our viewers obviously don't know, since they are getting introduced to you for the first time, is that we have an amazing history together, that you were someone who was involved in my husband, Mike, in our lives when we were in our late 20s, early 30s, beginning to raise a family. And we were very close with your parents in our church. And you were 13, 14 years old. Can hardly believe that, right? You are beautiful, I might add. You were beautiful then, but you blossomed wonderfully.
Thank you.
And we had the privilege even of when you married Marcelo, that my son got to be your ring bearer, right?
And your daughter was my junior bridesmaid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have a wonderful history, and it's just an honor and a blessing to see to see your evolution from a young person till now, still a young person, but you know, definitely a mother, a mother yourself of three amazingly gorgeous, I might add, children.
You.
And so I want to start the broadcast today talking with you or giving you the opportunity to tell our viewers how you began or embarked on this journey of wanting to help people with their communication skills, becoming a counselor. I think one of the most wonderful life blessings that God gives us is our relationships with other people. And frankly, we can have a lot of material wealth, we can even be physically well, but somehow when things are broken in our relationships, and that may be whether it's whether it's our relationships with our parents or coworkers, whether it's even a relationship with a spiritual leader, and mostly, which we will talk about on the broadcast today, our relationships with our spouses and loved ones. Everything else could be wonderful, but that will cause the most heartache or breakdown, even in our physical health. It will affect those other things that we seemingly look like we're prospering in. So just take some time here and fill us in on your story, Angel.
Well, it's funny that you talk about relationships being so important to the Lord. I often tell people that God created relationships. If he didn't, Adam would still be the only person walking around.
That's true.
He looked down, exactly. He looked down and said, "This is good. We created all of this. Look what we did." And Adam's not happy. What's going on here? He should be happy.
Right.
And he chose to pull Eve out of Adam so that he would have a relationship. So relationships are just ordained by the Lord to begin with. What brought me to where I am today, how much time do we have? I started out on my journey, of course, being raised a Christian, great church, great family. Started out as a teacher in the public school system.
Yes, I remember that.
Really felt like that was what I was going to do to make a difference in the lives of these kids until reality hit. And I said, I am not making a difference in anyone's life here. One young teacher in a room full of 30 students, very hard to do one-on-one. So what I ended up doing was going back to school for my degree in school psychology.
How old were you then? Around what age did you kind of make that shift?
I taught for, I guess I was around 23, 24 when I realized pretty quickly that I loved being with the kids, but I wanted to do more one-on-one with them. I wanted to have a relationship. I wanted to be able to impact their worlds a little bit more than what I thought I was doing. So around this time, I was going back to school and teaching, going for school psychology, and then 9/11 shook our world.
Wow.
So what happened was I had two kids at the time. I stopped teaching. I had already gotten my master's, and I was just continuing to pursue the school psychologist, the school counselor degree. My husband had a nervous breakdown. There was a lot of
Wow.
stuff that personally went on in our lives.
Yeah, you talk about this.
I talk about that in the book, right? And he just felt like we would be better off separate. He was going through something that I didn't understand. The book goes into a little bit more detail. I wasn't quite as compassionate probably as I should have been.
Right.
My children, what the viewers don't know, are only 11 months apart, my two boys. So I was this young mom, stay at home, wrestling with raising these two little kids, having a husband who I didn't really understand. I couldn't understand. Come home.
Well, life stresses can really change a person. It could not necessarily change a person, but bring out behavior that we didn't know was in there, so to speak. And that's part of, I think, our relationship with the Lord, and how these life circumstances, and frankly, even traumas. I actually was speaking to someone this week who very similarly was in the buildings next to the towers that went down in 9/11, and they were so traumatized that they said till this day, if they walk in a building, if there's a sound in the building, they like shake, a little bit. But similarly, that event caused her and her husband to make a major life change in their careers. Her especially, she actually left the business, the financial business that she was in, and actually went to become a massage therapist so that she could not live in the city and raise her children. Which it's amazing how those traumatic events can almost be. It's almost like what the Bible says: what the devil means for evil, God turns around and makes for good, because there's another path that he wants to put us on. Right. Well, we're going to take a break here, and we'll be right back and have Angel tell us some more of how she landed in this great place of prosperity where her dream of being able to help people has been fulfilled.
'Tis the season of giving. Kathy Bichsel Ministries and Beautiful Life are on a mission. As we do every year, we want to make this holiday season special for the children of Joseph's House, our missions project in Kampala, Uganda. We want to give them a holiday feast of special foods and provide greatly needed new school uniforms and shoes. Would you please consider helping us make this their best Christmas yet? Please go to www.kathybichsel.com/Joseph's House. That's KATHYBICHSEL.com.
Welcome back to our wonderful discussion with Dr. Angel DaSilva. Angel, we left off in our last segment, you telling us of the evolution of how you got to this place where your life has just majorly involved with helping others and counseling them. So if you can just pick up where we left off last segment. Sure. and let us know how you moved forward in your passion.
Okay, so as I was saying, right after 9/11, my husband went through this breakdown, decided very lovingly, said to me, I think we need to go separate ways. We're not happy. He couldn't put into words what was going on in his life. Mm-hmm. What I didn't mention was at this time, we were moving. We were selling our house.
Oh, having done that several times, geez.
I will never forget it. We had our dining room chairs lined up in our dining room because they were, just kind of stacked, almost like a train. I was playing with the kids. And I was sitting on one of the chairs, and he came in and he said, I think we should get divorced. And you know my family, you know my upbringing.
Oh, so
that was just not even
on the radar. Yeah.
So I said to him, we need to go to counseling. I said, I will do whatever it takes if we get through this at the end, and let's just go to counseling. So what we did was what pretty much every normal person does. We opened up our insurance folder and found someone that's on our plan, and we went to her. He went first. He was the one who was dealing with the trauma and just the anxiety. So he saw her a couple of times, and then she asked to see me. And within minutes of sitting in her office, she said to me, if you're not happy, I think the two of you should separate and get divorced.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was just floored at that response. As a Christian, first of all. Secondly, because I was there for marriage counseling, I just never thought that was what would come out of her mouth. Right. And I don't know what happened in me. I I got this courage,
God
and I looked
happened
at
in you.
her.
God
right?
happened in you.
And I said, with all due respect, I think we're going to go to someone who shares our faith, who, you know, and I stood up to leave, and my husband said, sit down, we still have 45 minutes. And I don't even remember the other 45 minutes. I honestly don't. We left, and I said, please, let's go to Christian counseling, please. Well, we did.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
I guess that was 2002. So 13 years later, what, you know, I don't know, my math, it might not be so good.
Well,
But
mine is not much
several years
better,
later,
so let's just try to stick to decades.
over a decade later, and another child in the mix. You know, we're doing great. But that experience left me, and it didn't happen overnight. You know, it's really important that the viewers understand this. We went through
Right.
counseling. We did end up moving. That's another stressor. I mean, we're moving and getting divorced.
Right.
Like, whoa, you know, what are we
Yeah,
doing?
right.
We went through a lot of counseling. We went to seminars. We went to workshops. We really committed to our
Wow, you
marriage.
really
so
did
that's
the work.
important.
That is
Yes,
important.
incredibly important. So we went through that, came out stronger on the other side, and it was this aha moment for me that said, I was raised in the church. I religiously, no pun intended, went to church. I mean,
Right,
we
right.
were there all the time. I was active with my faith, raising my kids in my faith, and yet this hit me. That's not, that's
Wow,
not
that's
supposed
so
to
important
happen.
that's so important for our viewers to understand, because so often, you know, as Christians, there's the pressure also to portray this "we have everything together" thing. You know, we're like the perfect Christian family. I think in a very good way. I think the communities of faith are evolving out of that, and
Yes.
we're coming to the realization that where you need to be when you're going through something traumatic, when you're going through a hard time in your family, when you want to be around people
Right.
of faith and people that can encourage you. But that's a lot of courage on your part.
Right.
To just have been honest and gone to a counselor. I mean, I know who your parents are, and the kind of stature that they have in the church, and to be willing to, not that you necessarily hung out your laundry and everybody
Yeah,
knew
and I
that
don't
you,
know if anyone
but
really
just,
knew.
but just really, even to be honest today, you turned, I hate to use something that is so cliche, but you made lemonade and out of your lemons, and look at how it has transformed your life and restored your marriage to where it's you have a beautiful relationship with your husband and your family.
And that is what led to my choice to go into the Christian counseling world. I said,
Wow.
how many other Christians are dealing with life's issues and they go to these insurance approved, and there's nothing, I'm not
Right,
knocking any
right,
of that,
yeah.
I'm not minimizing it
Our
at all.
disclaimer here today.
Yes. Right, exactly. But I realized that there must be more people in my situation. And so I just shifted gears. I was going to be a school counselor. I was going to do all that stuff. And I said, no, I'm shifting gears. And that's how I got to where I am today. And through that process, I've realized that the breakdown of relationships is directly linked to a breakdown of communication. My husband and I just simply stopped communicating. As much as I love my kids, I just had nothing else to say.
Right,
At the end of the day, I was so tired.
No,
And,
I think we all know that feeling. That's for sure. What really moves me, and I think is important for our viewers, and what I hear you saying, even about finding a counselor in the insurance book, is that it's the ease through which the world, or even other kind of clinical counseling can right away think it's all about you being happy.
Yes.
It's part of the culture. We're in a very, which we may talk a little bit more in our time together here and in our next broadcast, which I feel is really how the narcissism in the culture, even as believers, how we can start adapting that kind of mindset of narcissism, that the goal in everything is I'm happy, not I give, and in some way in doing that, God makes sure I'm taken care of in my happiness and my joy. But and if somebody doesn't at that moment make me happy, then I'm done with them.
It's disposable.
Well, in our next segment, we are going to get into your book a little bit. We'll tell our viewers.
Great.
So just give us one moment and we'll be right back.
Throughout time, God has always reserved for himself a remnant, a people fully sold out to his message and willing to pay the price of radical discipleship. While the church and the world lie in crises, a message is sounding once again throughout the corridors of time, that God can alter the course of history through a radical few. Consider Moses, the Apostle Paul, Daniel, Noah, Abraham, and Peter, just to name a few sold-out radicals to God's calling. Don't settle for the confines of the ordinary when the Father has set his love on you to be extraordinary. Rise up out of the ashes of loss and disappointment and take hold of the one who makes all things new. Join us on an adventure of faith to experience Christianity the way it is supposed to be. Radical, the radical rising remnant. The latest book from Kathy Bichsel. Get your copy now at kathybichsel.com.
Welcome back. We are with Dr. Angel DaSilva, and in this segment, I wanted to just start to introduce you to the book that Angel wrote, which it's called Communication ADD, and I may have Dr. Angel talk to you a little bit about that at some point, how she came up with that title, but it's a wonderful book. I will tell you that I read it at the beach this summer. It is a great beach book, and because it doesn't matter if it gets oil on it, you know, suntan oil or anything like that. But it's a great, easy reading, light, you know, not anything heavy at the beach, and just a book that is. I love having people on the broadcast that when I reference their writings as authors, that they're tools. Mm-hmm. You know, we love to have, I'm an avid reader and try to instill that in my family as well. And it's important to have books that are tools that you can actually refer to, and this is one of them.
Thank you.
And this book was birthed out of her journey, which she just finished sharing with us. And so I want to start today. The book has a beautiful flow of actually giving her story that she just shared with us, and then she segues into talking about what we call temperament styles in communication, or personality temperaments, mm-hmm. that influence how we are wired to communicate, right. That also affect kind of our soul and how we process emotions, how we process our ways of speaking and listening mm-hmm. To one another. Right. So I would love in this segment for you to just give us, you know, the basis or basics, I should say, of how that came to be, your understanding of that, because it really is true when you right. when you look at, even though I know sometimes individuals have challenges with the whole temperament thing mm-hmm. based on the 5 different temperaments, right, and that you're labeling someone. But I say to people all the time, I don't think that they should be used as something to pigeonhole our personalities, right. but especially in communication and how we process and our response to certain situations in life. An understanding of it of temperaments is highly, highly useful. Right. And I do want to say, Angel, kudos to you that you did an awesome job of giving a great template of understanding, which is Winnie the Pooh of understanding the temperaments, because having raised children, so that I still have a child who loves their mother, I will not say which one, but just from an early age, knew that they could process things like Eeyore. And we used to always say, you know, as a child, they used to always kiddingly say to them, you know, oops. And now it's an adult. We're like, oh, Eeyore's manifesting. You know, it's like, right. Oh no, the sky's falling. You know what I mean? It's the response yep. of a life situation being that there's going to be a negative outcome. So just if you can start, it may take the rest of the broadcast and probably into the next one. I've been having such an awesome time here with Angel that I think we're going to do a couple more broadcasts with her. But just start by telling us your understanding of temperament.
Okay, so let me back up just a little bit to tell you how the book was born, where it came out of all those sessions with my clients using temperament knowledge and therapy.
Okay.
I like to call temperament emotional needs. Rather, sometimes I use
that's
that
interesting.
instead,
Yeah.
rather than use those labels. I still obviously have the labels, but I think people get a better understanding by saying this is an emotional needs assessment, because what it's measuring, what the assessment measures, is our response, like you said, our
Yes.
response to certain stimuli, to certain situations, and also what we're really feeling. So it's
Wow.
sometimes we're responding in a way that we're not really feeling. Sometimes somebody looks
or what's expected of us.
or
We
what's
respond
expected.
in ways,
Yes,
yeah.
those expectations,
I
which
could understand
oftentimes are false or not completely accurate. So perception plays a huge role. And for years before I even wrote the book, I would sit, in my chair and have my clients, one on each side, and I would listen to what's being said and then hear the other person completely miss it. And sometimes in my mind, thinking, are they in the same room as,
Right. Wow. Wow.
Here I am at that point of that triangle, trying to mediate these two individuals and trying to rephrase. And I had that aha moment saying, what is going on here? It's just the perception. It's miscommunication.
And the thing with perception is it becomes reality.
Yes.
And we start acting and behaving in ways that are not based on reality.
And that is something I say to my clients all the time. Perception is reality. Your perception may be completely different than my perception, but until we can communicate effectively, your perception is extremely real, as is mine, even though they're different.
Yes,
So
yes.
what happens if you're not communicating effectively? Your perception is going to be what you're holding on to. And then I'm going to defensively respond to you because, no, I want to be right. And I want you to see my
Yes.
way. So the book goes into, and all of that is temperament. There's temperament basis behind that, and I know we're probably going to run out of time before I even get to that.
Right.
But the book goes into how to break down those defenses, how to peel away all those layers so that you can have a peace about communicating, a peace with your relationships, whether that's at home with your spouse, with your children, with your friends, at work.
Yes.
A lot of times we leave out that work part. Work, gosh, 75% of our day is at work. So that's what the book talks about, and of course temperament is a huge part of that.
Well, we certainly are not going to be able to, as you said, get to all of that on our broadcast today. We are so happy that you could join us today, and of course there's lots more. We want to have you join us again for tomorrow's broadcast as well. I think we'll probably have 2 more here with Angel because it's just been so wonderful diving into this wonderful subject. I want to remind you that you can order this book of Angel's at her website, angeldasilva.com. Our producers will have that information on the screen for you. Please don't forget to tune back in tomorrow for our Beautiful Life program. We love you and are believing for God's very best to be realized and manifested in your life and those you love. God bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
With the hundreds of ways to communicate in the modern world, it seems ironic that people are failing to adequately hear each other. Conflict, strife, and discouragement in relationships are the results of a fundamental breakdown of communication professionally and personally. In this book, based on biblical principles, Dr. DaSilva challenges you to listen before you to speak with the other person's feelings in mind, and to respond rather than react. By using the communication ADD techniques, you will become a better spouse, a better parent, and a better worker simply because you've learned how to communicate on a higher level. We trust you enjoyed this episode of Beautiful Life and the teaching ministry of Kathy Bichsel. For more information about Kathy, her books, downloads, and CDs, please visit beautifullifetv.com. If you are interested in Kathy's teaching schedule, or perhaps you would like her to speak at a church or event near you, please email info@beautifullifetv.com. We would like to thank you for taking the time to join us, as we trust that God's blessing will continue to offer you His beautiful life. So long for now.